It was a Tuesday morning. Clear skies stretched over the east coast of the United States. The kind of morning where the world feels ordinary, almost too ordinary. In New York, the streets were crowded with commuters. Children shuffled into schools, offices filled with workers booting up computers, sipping their first cups of coffee. No one knew that, within a few hours, the skyline of Manhattan would change forever. No one knew that the world itself was about to tilt. September 11th, 2001, the day when time seemed to stop, when images burned themselves into memory, planes slicing through steel, towers collapsing in dust, sirens echoing through canyons of concrete. For many, those moments have been replayed endlessly on television, in documentaries, in classrooms. But what you have seen is only the surface. Beneath the headlines, hidden between the frames of those familiar broadcasts, lie stories that are rarely told. Fragments of the day that most people do not know. Details that make the tragedy feel even stranger, even heavier. And tonight, we'll walk through them, not the parts you've already memorized, but the parts that remain in the shadows. This is 10 things you didn't know about 9/11. Number 1, the planes were almost empty. On a normal Tuesday morning, domestic flights across the United States would be nearly full. 70, 80, sometimes 90% of the seats taken. But on September 11th, the 4 planes chosen by the hijackers carried only about 20% of their usual passengers. Out of nearly 1,000 available seats, barely 200 were filled. A coincidence perhaps, or something that has kept researchers uneasy ever since. Number 2, the forgotten building. Most remember the Twin Towers. Fewer recall the Pentagon. But hardly anyone speaks of World Trade Center 7, a 47-story skyscraper that was never struck by a plane, yet collapsed late that afternoon. The official explanation was fire. But for those who watched it fall perfectly, almost symmetrically, into its own footprint, questions never stopped. WTC-7 became the seed of countless theories, and the shadow of that collapse still lingers over the narrative of 9/11. Number 3, the calls from the sky. As the hijacked planes veered off course, passengers reached for phones. Some used the built-in seat phones. Others, surprisingly, managed to reach their loved ones with early cell signals. There were whispered goodbyes, desperate explanations, voices trembling through static. On Flight 93, Todd Beamer ended his final call with 3 words: "Let's roll." It was not just a farewell, it was a signal. A group of passengers attempted to storm the cockpit. The plane never reached its target in Washington. Instead, it crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. A tragedy, yet also an act of resistance. Number 4, the sounds of explosions. Survivors, firefighters, police officers, many swore they heard it. Sharp bangs echoing through the towers. One fireman described it as a chain reaction. Boom, 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 floor after floor. The official investigation suggests these were the sounds of collapsing beams, shattering glass, the fury of the buildings giving way. But to those who were there, the memory is darker. They believed they heard bombs, and the echo of that belief has never faded. Number 5, warnings that went unheard. In the summer of 2001, both the CIA and the FBI flagged the possibility of a massive terrorist strike. On August 6th, President Bush was handed a briefing. Its title was chilling: Bin Laden Determined to Strike in U.S. It warned of hijackings, of potential plots against American soil, but the warning was not acted upon. 1 month later, the unimaginable became reality. For many historians, it remains the greatest missed chance to stop 9/11 before it ever happened. Number 6, the denial of Osama bin Laden. In the hours and days after the attacks, the world's eyes turned toward him. And yet, in an interview, bin Laden denied it. He claimed al-Qaeda had nothing to do with September 11th. Only later in a grainy videotape did he take credit. Why the denial? Was it strategy? Was it misdirection? Or did he simply want to watch the world blame him regardless? The truth is still uncertain. Number 7, the myth of melting steel. One of the most common claims after the towers fell was that jet fuel could never melt steel. And that is true. Steel melts at around 1,500 degrees Celsius. Jet fuel burns at less, but steel does not have to melt to fail. At 600 degrees, it loses most of its strength. Combined with office furniture, plastics, paper, the fire became an inferno. And that was enough to bring a skyscraper down. Number 8, the hidden cost. In dollars, the attack drained over $120 billion from the American economy. Wall Street closed for nearly a week. Air travel froze across the country. Insurance companies collapsed under the weight of claims. But the real cost could never be measured in money. It was in the phone calls that ended mid-sentence, in the empty chairs at kitchen tables, in the silence left behind by nearly 3,000 lives. Number 9, the dust. When the towers collapsed, a gray storm swallowed lower Manhattan. It was not just dust. It was pulverized concrete, steel, glass fiber, asbestos. Over 90,000 first responders labored in that haze, many without proper protection. They inhaled it, day after day. Years later, the illnesses began. Cancers, lung disease, chronic pain. For some, 9/11 did not end that morning. It followed them, quietly, until the end of their lives. Number 10, the clocks that froze. Among the rubble, recovery teams found watches, phones, devices, stopped forever at the moment of collapse. Time itself frozen in that instant. It is haunting to think of it. As if for those who perished inside the towers, the world truly ended at 9:59 and again at 10:28. 2 moments of silence, carved permanently into history. 9/11 is more than a date. It is a wound, a turning point, a story told and retold but never fully understood. And hidden beneath the surface of the headlines are fragments like these, details that refuse to be forgotten. The day the towers fell was not just about planes and buildings. It was about people, about time itself shattering, in a world that would never return to what it was before. And perhaps that is why we continue to look back, not only at what we saw, but at what we didn't.